Ladies and sinners, welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. We're back at it again, folks. Every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we talk all things Vegas sports. Football is underway. Week 1 of the NFL has completed. Week 2 of college football has completed. Fall, best time of the year. You can't convince me otherwise. Next to late October, the greatest holiday ever invented, Halloween, it is absolutely beautiful out. And football is back in full swing. And it was a welcome sight for the NFL. Welcome sight for the NFL. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You guys can see, again, tune in every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you guys miss a show, no worries. You guys can catch this show and any of its replays on Spreaker Podcast Player, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Good Pods, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, and JioSaavn. I think I pronounced that right. I don't know. If I didn't laugh at me, it's fine. Many ways to listen to our podcast over and over and over. Catch what you've missed in the latest episodes. I've been a busy man because of football, but I always have time for Sin City Sports. Whether it's a half hour, an hour, I'm going to do the best I can to be on every single week. Yes, I'm going to miss some weeks, especially during the football season. I got like 6 more weeks of high school football to coach. But after that, it's full steam ahead of the show. And we got a lot to cover today. I mean, with that said, let's dive right in. Lady Aces basketball, absolutely killing it. They've been killing it for weeks. I don't know if they can be stopped. I really don't. They're 34-6. They're first in the Western Conference by a large margin. They clinched a playoff berth a month ago or so. Like, that's how good they've played. And they've actually destroyed their entire schedule. I don't know if anybody has a chance. But the postseason, the first round, right around the corner. It'll be versus Chicago, for that matter. Versus Chicago, you got 3 games. Those games will start in the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. That game will be at September 13th. So tomorrow evening will be the first playoff game of the 2023 WNBA season. Live on ESPN, 9 p.m. So we're probably looking at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Lady Aces continue their title defense and start off their playoff. I don't know. I don't think Chicago's a very good team this year. I really don't. I don't think Chicago's a very good team this year. So that tells you a couple things. One, I feel like they mop. It wouldn't surprise me if this is 2 games, right? 2 games and Vegas is on their way to the next round. It wouldn't surprise me at all. That's how dominant Vegas has been. They've absolutely killed it. And it's hard to say otherwise. I don't know if any team out there matches up very well with Vegas, especially with the way A'ja Wilson's playing, averaging nearly 23 points a game. And that's improved from like the 20 I saw about a month ago. I mean, she's just gone off. And some of it has to do with, and we talked about it for the last couple weeks, they slipped and lost a couple games. I just don't think they were playing their best players. I think they clinched their playoff berth. They won the Western Conference a month ago, and in their mind, they're like, yeah, we're not going to risk injury. So I think their best players have been resting because even, when you look at Kelsey Plum and Jackie Young, both of their statistics, they've kind of dropped about a point per game, maybe a point and a half because Kelsey Plum was close to 20. Jackie Young was 19 plus. Chelsea Gray has been keeping that going. Listen, you got 4 ladies, 4 players on this Lady Aces team averaging well over 15 points a game. Like, they're the backbone. A'ja Wilson's 9.5 rebounds a game. She's now leading the team. For most of the season, it was Candace Parker that was doing that. Candace Parker's still 5th in points at 38 years old, 9 points a game. So as long as you can get minutes, and I'm telling you, man, I bet you she's just got a ton of energy, knowing that she has the ability. Candace Parker has the ability to add another title to her belt. I mean, that's the only reason why you'd come to this team, right? Because it's a championship caliber team. I don't know, man. I don't think this goes game three. If it does, Chicago played lights out in one of those games. Otherwise, I just don't think this goes game three. Um, I believe that the Lady Aces are well rested. I believe that they are the most dominant team in the WNBA. They're defending their title for a reason. And I predict the beginning of the season, not because I'm the Vegas sports show host. You guys know how objective I am. I'm a Raiders fan, but I have no problem saying they're not going to win the Super Bowl this year, right? They played a great game this last week, but it doesn't mean they're ready to win a Super Bowl. I think the Lady Aces, on the other hand, in the WNBA are absolutely dominant. They're killing it. I don't see a team that's better than them. And with that said, I would say with a without a shadow of a doubt, I believe that they'll win it all. I don't think that this first round matchup against Chicago is going to go to 3 games. I think it'll be over in two. The first game will probably be a blowout, and the second one will probably be close because Chicago will be fighting for basically their playoff existence. But other than that, I just don't see it ending well for them at all. So again, Aja Wilson, 22.8 points a game, absolutely incredible. Kelsey Plume, 18.7. Jackie Young, 17.6. Chelsea Gray, 15.3. Um, Candace Parker and Aja Wilson are averaging about 9 rebounds a game. It's unbelievable. That's what they need. That's extra possessions. That's extra possessions. It's going to be awesome. So, yeah, that's tomorrow night. I do predict a landslide victory in this first game. It's going to be at home in the T-Mobile Arena, charged up Lady Aces fan base, which I'm sure Mark Davis is going to try and pack that house. It makes business sense for playoff tickets. Um, but yeah, I totally believe that'll be a landslide, and then it'll be close in Chicago on Friday. Good luck to the Lady Aces. I don't know if they need it, but good luck to the Lady Aces. The UNLV Rebels played their second game of the season this last weekend against, unfortunately, the number 2 team in the nation, Michigan. And I don't know how else we expected this to go down. Listen, Michigan is the number 2 team in the nation for a reason. I'm a huge fan of McCarthy. I think they have 2 NFL caliber running backs. I think their entire offensive line is massive. It's one of the things that's really changed since Jim Harbaugh got there. I mean, it took him about 5-6 years to really get a good handle on offensive line recruiting. And ever since then, man, you just seen mammoths coming out of that. I mean, they just stepped to line. It's just blue, right? And they're dwarfing Ohio State players, which is incredible. Um, Michigan's unreal, and they play a different brand of football in college than others do. I think it's very smash mouth. Offensively, yes, they'll spread it around. McCarthy has no fear of throwing it deep. He also has no fear of running. I believe that they like to go downhill. I love their style of offense. I really do. For today's age of college football, this is an anomaly. These guys have no problem getting under center. They have no problem pulling guards and pulling tackles. Michigan's a very impressive team, and UNLV just kind of ran up against one of the best teams in the nation by far. And the only 7 points that they scored was scored late. But look, that's part of it. It's part of the growing pains, and that helps UNLV because Michigan paid them well to come play against them, which is great for the program. It's great for the program, and UNLV needs this. I don't think they need many more, but UNLV needs this. They play Vanderbilt next. That'll be at home against Vanderbilt, CBS Sports Network. That'll be. I mean, Vanderbilt is not. It won't be an easy game because it's an SEC team, but I mean, it's not like it's Vanderbilt. Like they're the bottom of the SEC, so there's a chance. Imagine they win that game. First off, if UNLV beats Vanderbilt, I don't. I think they'll be looking for a new head coach because I don't know how you could lose to a Group of Five team like Las Vegas and consider yourself a serious coach. But yeah, Vanderbilt, they're not going to be easy. They're not Michigan by any means, but Vanderbilt is not going to be easy. And I think UNLV has an opportunity to take advantage of an upset. Maybe it's not an upset because it's Vanderbilt, but when a Group of Five team beats an SEC team, I consider that an upset. There's a lot to like there. Brumfield, I hope he stays healthy. I know he's been kind of getting hit the last couple games. He's currently the team leader in passing yards, but he does run the ball really well. At 6'6", 225, man, he's just a long quarterback. Long quarterback. The thing is, with this UNLV team, I just don't feel like they're as physical as what they were last year. I think they're trying to get there, and I think Barry Odom's trying to put together some sort of defense that really likes to pursue the football. But I don't know against these bigger opponents like Michigan, like Vanderbilt. I don't know if the styles of offense and defense they play really fit or are conducive to winning against these types of teams, right? I just think Michigan's just way too physical. Like I say Michigan's way too physical because I mean in the game of football because these dudes are absolutely blowing up Ohio State the last 2 years. Like beating Ohio State by double digit points the last 2 years. And it was close in the first half and in the second half they would just come out and beat the living tar out of Ohio State players. Like Ohio State players getting blown off the ball. That is Michigan style. They're a smash mouth football team. They're coming right at you. They don't care, and they don't apologize for it. And there's a good reason. Their O line's massive. Like that is Michigan's identity. Play great defense, NFL caliber type defense. Run the ball well. Let JJ stretch the field. Like they're an NFL offense in Ann Arbor. Straight up. I mean, Jim Harbaugh was a former NFL coach, but what he's doing in Ann Arbor, even through his suspension, the team is playing really well. And it just so happens they happen to run into our local Las Vegas, UNLV. It's unfortunate, but it's part of it. It would be interesting. Give me 1 second. Let me Google how much did Michigan pay UNLV to play that game. That's an interesting. So like I know a couple years ago, it was like Northern Illinois or South Alabama or something like that came into Lincoln, Nebraska, beat the Huskers at home. And they paid that team like $1 million to come beat them basically. What is supposed to be a warm-up game for the Huskers beat them. So let's see what happened here. Michigan makes about $8 million per home game. That's incredible. They have 110,000 fans like in attendance almost every week. So that does not surprise me. Um, Picking up what should be an easy victory is more important than to Michigan. $1 million is what they believe. So they believe this Las Vegas Review Journal, right, written by Mark Anderson, believes UNLV was paid $1 million to play the Wolverines this past weekend. Good lord. More than 5.5 million of UNLV's entire budget this academic year, according to the university's website. Michigan brings in 65 million in yearly revenue from football alone. Holy crap. Wolverines, in fact, make up to $8 million per home game. That's absolutely incredible, man. So, yeah, if you have 8 games or if you host 6 to 7 games per year, I mean, yeah, you're looking around 65 million annually, roughly. That's crazy. That's crazy. UNLV got $1 million of that, though. That helps them a ton. Like, their budget per year is 5.5 million. Well, you made up $1 million of that. Now, where's the other 4.5 million come from? Ticket sales, jersey sales, merchandise, stuff like that. Anything related to football. But the other tricky part with the NCAA is the athletic directors or the athletic departments share those funds. Yes, majority of the funds would be allocated to the sport that's really being affected by all the purchases and the sales and stuff like that. But UNLV football isn't on that scale to really push the needle in that aspect. So I'm sure that it's like an athletic department's job to kind of, I don't know, make money and then kind of distribute the masses as needed. I have a hard time believing UNLV makes a ton of money a year. like I'm sure they're barely above red. And when I say barely above red for a college program, college sports, I'm thinking like they're in the millions, but it's like single digit millions is what they make, maybe, if they're lucky, um, with all sports. But UNLV is a big sport. UNLV is a big attractor uh, for games, attendance, athletic department. They do a great job in basketball, especially the women's team. We saw that last year. I mean, they went like what 29-1 last year. Them Lady Rebels didn't mess around, but they're not going to have the same kind of draw football does. So yeah, Michigan basically paid UNLV $1 million to come in and wipe the floor of them. I guess that's fine. But UNLV is going to have to turn around. They're going to have to change their mindset. They have Vanderbilt coming in. Vanderbilt's not going to be easy. It's an SEC team. It is one of the worst SEC teams, but it's still an SEC team, and it needs to be. They need to be respected. And I hope UNLV can put up a fight. Honestly, there's a possibility UNLV upsets Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's not a very good football team, so there's a chance, and I feel really good about that chance. Honestly, as long as Brumfield comes to play, you shouldn't have any issues. As long as Brumfield comes to play, there should be no issues at all. I think Vincent Davis Jr. could be somebody that we see getting massive carries and yards. He's their running back. That's a possibility. They're light on receivers this year. They just don't have the same speed guys they had last year. Still a possibility to break the mold and get after it. I think UNLV has a chance to beat Vanderbilt this weekend. Not a guaranteed chance, but I still think they have a chance to beat them. And that's always good news for a program that's on the up and up. Barry Odom's 1-1 as a head coach of the UNLV. Let's hope he makes that 2-1 by the end of this week. And when we come back, we're going to do the What's Happening in Vegas segment and then run right into Victory Tuesday, talking about our Las Vegas Raiders here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
going on, football fans? This is Muir Larry B inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Everybody, this is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the '08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Welcome back, ladies and sinners, to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You guys can get after us on our Twitter forums at SinCity_IESR, at Cale_Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports. And on my personal, I basically just talk about whatever the hell I want. A lot going on. Vegas has been crazy. Lady Aces are kicking ass, taking names. We might have an A's team, a Major League Baseball team, getting approved here real soon. It looks like Rob Manfred is really trying to push for that. On top of that, UFC has been crazy in Vegas over the last few years, and it's only getting bigger with their headquarters here. On top of that, Raiders had their first week. You heard that. Raiders had their first week, had their first win of the season against the Denver Broncos. That would be 7 straight for the Raiders. 7 straight wins over the Broncos, and we'll touch base on that in here in a second. If you guys want to listen to our show or catch our show again, make sure you guys tune into the top podcast, which should be Spreaker Podcast Player, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Good Pods to replay our show every single week if you happen to miss the live recording. I mean, come on now. Get after us. Word from our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion, Lake Elsinore Storm, single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, low in sugar, and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on, and for a limited time, you can win 4 tickets to see the Storm and 4 bags of jerky. All you have to do is visit planetjerky.net, place your order, follow Plant Jerky. I'm guessing it's supposed to be Planet Jerky. At Plant Jerky, and DM that you brought your jerky from hearing this ad. Bought your jerky from hearing this ad. You will then be entered into a raffle that ends on Tuesday, August 1st, which has already passed. Once again, huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky, premium brisket beef jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. IE Sports Radio, talk about our platform. IE Sports Radio for the last 9 years. IE Sports Radio has brought you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to keep up with the latest sports with all of our shows. And also check out our website, iesportsradio.com. For sports news, the IE Sports Radio blog, our Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month, pages dedicated to each podcast on the network, our IE Sports Radio community forum, and stop by the store and check out our latest merch. Thank you all for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. We're in Victory Tuesday, folks. Victory Tuesday because the Las Vegas Raiders have won week 1, and they have won 7 straight. They have won 7 straight meetings against the Broncos. You would think that would have been like during the Manning days. This just never happened. If you were competitive against the Broncos, you were happy. The Raiders have won 7 straight, and we're talking about. This kind of started with John Gruden in his first 3 years, right? He started the 4 straight, right? I think he was let go before they won the 5th straight. I'm just telling you, man. Like it's been crazy. But John Gruden's started it off, did a great job. The Broncos just really aren't a rival right now. Broncos aren't a very good football team. They will be a rival. They'll be more of a rival to the Raiders than the Kansas City Chiefs are right now. But yeah, Denver Broncos, they look better. I won't lie. I'm gonna give them their respect. They looked better. Sean Payton, you can tell at some points of the game the Raiders were outcoached. They really were. I just think at this current juncture, the Raiders have a better roster. I think that they can control the ball better. I think that Jimmy G obviously knew the offense. Listen, I still think that we downgraded. I truly do. I still think that we downgraded at quarterback, but where we upgraded was the knowledge of the system and his comfortability, because you could just tell. There were checks at the line on Sunday that were absolutely impressive, and they moved the chains. And they were things that we didn't see the year before. Granted, Jimmy G's this will be his 6th year in the system. He spent 5 years in New England in this system. So he's familiar with it. He understands Josh McDaniels, okay? And Josh McDaniels, this is his boy. So Josh McDaniels is probably going to go out of his way to make sure that this is successful. Whereas with Derek Carr, he only got 1 season, not even a full season. Let's be honest, all right? I'm not trying to have the guy's name in my mouth necessarily because we did something positive. I'm just being real with you. I think we downgraded. But over this weekend, Jimmy G did some really good things that shows me why the Raiders brass felt more comfortable. They don't need a guy with a huge arm. They don't need a guy who's going to be a game breaker. They really just need a guy that's going to manage the game, that's going to move the sticks, um, improve the offensive efficiency, keep the defense off the field, and that's everything Jimmy G was asked to do, and he did a great job of it. I am worried that he's going to get hurt. Like there was that slide where he got just cleaned out, dude. I'm sitting here thinking, oh man, this guy might have a concussion, and I'm talking about like Myers type concussion because you could tell Myers had a concussion. That dude was out. He was dazed. He was barely holding the ball. He was wide eyed. I was worried that was going to happen to Jimmy G because of the hit he took. He's got to be more careful, man. And the Raiders staff has to tell him, hey, we love that you're willing to scramble. We love that you're willing to get those yards, but get down because we need to minimize all of the contact this man has. He cannot get hurt. If he gets hurt, we don't win. I don't think we win another game. I think we have a hard time. Aiden O'Connell might win us a couple games, actually. But we'll be looking at another top 7 pick for sure if Jimmy G gets hurt. Would that be a bad thing? Not necessarily. But it seems as though the team's kind of rallying behind him. I think they like his leadership qualities. Again, we don't need a huge arm. We don't need a talent that is. We don't need a talent. Derek Carr is a better talent than Jimmy G. He's a better thrower of the football. I truly believe that. I think he might be even a better person, right, than porn stash Jimmy G. But I would say Jimmy G looks like a better fit right now, and I give him his flowers. W's a W. We'll see how things go against the Bills this upcoming weekend. And I honestly hate that the Bills lost last week because now it just feels like a get-right game for the Bills in New York. I just hate it. Absolutely despise it, but there's not much you can do. And yeah, it's not much you can do. It won't be an easy game. Won't be an easy game at all. That'll be a noon kickoff at CBS, so that should be an interesting game. I got Sunday tickets, so I won't miss anything. That'll be awesome. Larry B chimes in. Larry, good to see you, man. Raiders. I feel you, bro. The Raiders really look like crap, LOL. But the Broncos just couldn't get out of their own way, and the Raiders capitalized. But to be fair, the Raiders couldn't get out of their own way either. That's the truth. Yep. It's the truth, man. Derek Carr's a better quarterback. Look what he did with the Saints. Game 1. Like, these are the types of things that he could have been doing last year if he had more comfortability with this system. That's part of my problem with Josh McDaniels right now. I just like you had a veteran quarterback last year with more arm talent than Jimmy G currently has, more mobility than Jimmy G currently has. You brought in his best friend to throw to, and they connected for 12 touchdowns last year before he was benched. You couldn't have kind of set your terminology to be familiar with what Derek Carr was really successful with the 4 previous years. Like, are you really that naive? Are you really that prideful? Are you waving around your 6 rings and saying, "Hey, I know what I'm talking about, you don't"? I don't know, man. It's just crazy to me. I feel like there could have been far more success. But you can tell that this is why Jimmy G's here, man. You could see it at the line of scrimmage. I think it was second quarter. Guy threw it was a hole shot. I mean, it was I would say it's about a 12-yard hole shot. I mean, he threw a back shoulder throw and it was perfect to Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers snatched it out of the air and it was a check at the line of scrimmage. Like, it's the type of things that I think Josh McDaniels was looking for, and we saw it last week. Josh Jacobs carried the team 100%. He looks like he's in great shape. I really enjoyed the story that they had with Josh Jacobs. Apparently, he went into the mountains in Nevada. He was training in the mountains. He trained really hard, weight training, and sprints up the hill, sled drags, sled pushes, everything in the elevation. So, and he didn't look like he was even breathing hard late in the third quarter. Like, he looked like he was fine. So that's also great news. That's great news if you're a Raiders fan. You know that this guy is in shape. You know his cardio is where it needs to be. They just got to – I would like to see them watch the pitch count. Here's the thing I have with this regime so far. You go out and you draft a Georgia running back in the 3rd round last year, right? You think he'd get more than 15 carries in a season being a 3rd-round pick. Yes, Josh Jacobs was absolutely amazing last year. But don't get me wrong, man. He could have probably had the same production with 30 to 50 fewer carries if he would have been fresh, because he was dealing with some nagging injuries last year. That's why you draft a 3rd-round pick. Bring him in. Start giving him the ball, man. He's got to get reps anyway, because there's a good possibility again, and I know I said this last year, but it's a 1-year deal for Josh Jacobs. He's not going to continue to sign 1-year, $12 million deals. Sooner or later, a team is going to come out. There won't be a franchise tag involved, and a team's going to come out and be like, hey, we want him. They're going to give him an offer he wants. And it'll probably be a winning team with maneuverability. Here's my nightmare. Josh Jacobs ends up a Chief next season because of what they can do with Patrick Mahomes' contract and their need for a running back, like a stable running back. If you put Josh Jacobs on that football team, man, they're unstoppable. You don't need Travis Kelce healthy because Josh is going to open up everything for all them scrubs there in that drop wide open passes from Patrick Mahomes. Kadarius Toney being one of them. Seriously, that's my biggest fear. Josh Jacobs eventually ends up a Chief. But great win on Sunday. I think at times the Raiders defense looked dreadful, man. They looked awful. Like they look like they haven't changed at all. And then other times it looks like they're more disciplined. The pass rush is better. They seem to be getting after it. Russell Wilson was comfortable in the first half. It looks like Graham made second half adjustments or adjustments for the second half. They didn't do anything in the second half. I think the Raiders did a good job with field position. Their punting, their special teams was fantastic. They kept putting the Broncos in negative territory, and the Raiders seem to be in positive territory more often than the Broncos. And that's a recipe for winning. It really is. Surprise, Jacoby Myers, how well he played. Jacoby Myers had 2 touchdown catches, 2 grabs. Some of it has to do with they were bracketing the crap out of Devontae Adams. And I'll also say this. I think Pat Surtain improved over the offseason. He just looks like a different animal than he did last year. Pat Surtain, this might be the year Pat Surtain just becomes the best corner in the league. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the season we see, especially if Marshawn Lattimore stays healthy, we see like Pat Surtain, Marshawn Lattimore, and then, other people, in the mix. But Pat Surtain looked that good on Sunday. Like, Devontae Adams really didn't do anything. He did that well. Adams had, let's see here, 6 receptions for 66 yards. It's not bad. No touchdowns. Jacoby Myers, 9 receptions, 81 yards. 2 touchdowns. 21 was long. Austin Hooper had a catch for 20. Josh Jacobs had 2 catches for 23. Not too bad. Let's take a look here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different people caught the ball last Sunday. That's a bit weird. That's one of my other pet peeves with Josh McDaniels. Man, he really likes to hone in on specific players on a game-to-game basis, and it does not seem to evolve, right? The one thing I loved about Gruden's offense, yes, he wanted to feed specific guys, but listen, man, they did a great job of feeding it to 8 different receivers almost every single game. They didn't mind doing that. This just doesn't happen here with the Josh McDaniels regime. And again, this is plan specific. This is part of him being a Bill Belichick, disciple. They love to game plan. They love to put people in position to succeed. And when they do that, and if they're finding success, they're not going to stop. But it's something I've just noticed from Josh McDaniels, and I have no problem saying it. I just think, I don't know. Jimmy G's stat line, 20 for 26, 76.9% completion rating, 200 yards even, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. His rating was 107. I think his QBR was 82. That's all great. We'll take that. That's all the Raiders need. If they can get 200 to 250 per game from Jimmy G and 2 touchdowns, that's all the Raiders need. They'll win 11, 12 games. This is the problem, guys. I don't know if when we get into games that matter, like the Chargers, Chiefs, 2 teams that are very good, we might beat Denver. Denver might not be easy at home. We might still beat them, but Denver won't be easy at home. The other 2 teams are better teams. I truly believe that. I think the Chargers are better, even with their flop. And by the way, I have to say this. I know it's not my team, but man, I remember messaging Taron Rodriguez, man. He's the host of the SoCal Sports. He talks Los Angeles Chargers quite a bit. Justin Herbert, it seems like anytime he's on primetime or on TV, you see the guy at the end of the game with his helmet tipped up, he's got a blank stare, and he's just hoping his defense won't screw things up after he and the offense put up 34 points. Like 30 plus points. It happens way too often. And I'm going to say it like this, man. If they get halfway through the season and they're not like a 2 to 3 loss team, I would be shocked if Brandon Staley is back next year because they are loaded. Their roster is loaded. Kellen Moore did an excellent job. I think the Chargers look sharper, and it just doesn't make sense to me. I think Herbert gets done dirty. He's gotten paid, so I can't feel too bad for him, but still, I think the dude's gotten done. He's dirty. He's been getting done dirty. Josh Jacobs, 19 carries, 48 yards, 2.5 average. I will say this: Denver Broncos really made an effort to keep him from being productive. They really did. Um, and that's to be expected. After winning the rushing title, teams are going to load the box. The other thing I've noticed is, in New England, yes, you saw a lot of under center. Don't get me wrong. But you also saw a ton of shotgun. And you see shotgun in this McDaniels offense, Raiders McDaniels offense. But man, we're under center with a fullback. I don't know. It feels like 60% of the time. And I could be wrong about that. I watched the film. I should have kept track of that. Those are statistics that are great to bring to the show. But it looks as though we're under center and we have a fullback roughly 60% of the time. That might lead the league. I think it led the league last year. I think the Raiders led the league last year in design plays with a fullback. It was the Raiders and the Ravens, I think, that have led it the last couple of years. Even when Gruden was here, we led it with a fullback. But look, man, if that's our style, I felt like we saw some really encouraging things last week or this last weekend. I think we see a physical team. I think we see a team that's going to win based on fundamentals on a week-to-week basis, depending on who they're playing. The penalties have to stop, man. I think there were like 9 penalties for 97 yards or something like that. Like that, it's ridiculous, man. It is so crazy how much the Raiders get penalized in this league. And I don't blame fans for wondering, like, do they just have Raiders by? Like, do they just hate the Raiders? And does the league hate the Raiders? I don't know, man. Because we've changed coaches like 10 times in the last 20 years, and it seems like we lead the league in penalties every single year, no matter who's coaching. So it's kind of hard to blame it on coaching and being undisciplined when it seems to be a theme throughout the league. It's just like, I just feel like the league just doesn't like the Raiders. Straight up. They need the Raiders because when the Raiders are good, the league is in a much better place. They make more money. Um, But that's the reality. I just feel like the Raiders get penalized like a mo. Maybe it's because of the black and white too. Maybe it's just super easy to see fouls when you are black and white and people are wearing, lime green gloves playing against you or bright orange or powder blue. You know what I mean? Red. I'm sure it's really easy to see whether or not you are holding or doing what you do when you are straight black and silver, black and white. Maybe that's why we get penalized so much more. Refs just see it better because of the contrasting colors and gloves and everything that they see on the Raiders. But still, it feels ridiculous. It feels like the Raiders lead the league in penalties every single year. But what we will see is a hard-nosed downhill run game set up for play action. I would be shocked if they don't try to feed Devontae Adams this game. Um, I think that White is a really good corner for the Bills. I just don't know if he's good enough. I put White in the same category as Surtain. Like he's right there on the cusp of being like one of the top corners in the league. But can he do it consistently against talent like Devontae Adams? Like, because Devontae owned Patrick Surtain last year. Like, this was an absolute baptism by fire last year for Patrick Surtain, and I feel terrible for the guy. But it's obvious he improved because with what? Pardon me. With 6 receptions and 66 yards, like in no touchdowns, for Devontae Adams, that's getting shut down. Yes, it's still 66 yards, but for Devontae, that's getting shut down. If you're a team and Devontae doesn't score, he doesn't make a huge difference in that game, you did really well on defense. And the reality is, if you hold a team to under 20 points, you should win a game. Period. And that's something that didn't normally happen with the Raiders. If the Raiders actually did that for once, the Raiders would somehow find a way to lose. It didn't happen. So maybe we don't see that same team we saw last year. Maybe we see a more resilient team, a more hard-nosed, more disciplined team. We'll find out with the as the season goes on. We'll find out with the penalties. The penalties will tell us a lot. Penalties tell us a lot. Turnovers tell us a lot. But the Raiders just need to stay healthy. If they stay healthy, they're a really good team. If they stay healthy, they're a 10-win team. I truly believe that. I think if the Raiders stay healthy, if Jimmy Garoppolo stays healthy, if Devontae Adams stays healthy, you're looking at a 10-win team at least in an extremely tough division. Great game. I was actually pretty thrilled with it. Yes, there wasn't a lot of points, but it felt like a really good defensive battle. Game one, monkey off the back. I'm sure Josh McDaniels been feeling heat because he's not a very good coach or a very good head coach. I shouldn't say he's not a very good coach. The guy's a 6-time Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator. Not a very good head coach. I feel like this was a really good win, especially in Denver, week one. I like it. I give the Raiders a B+. I think they played hard. I think they played tough. They were resilient. That's what you're looking for. And they weren't very disciplined. Again, I think they led in penalties. Even with all those personal fouls, which were ridiculous by Denver. I mean, look, man, I get football is football and people get hit hard, but man, some of them hits felt malicious. And man, some of those hits felt like the Broncos had been beaten 6 times in a row previous to that. Like maybe they're just sick of losing to the Raiders because the Raiders are one of the most inconsistent teams in all of the NFL on a year-to-year basis. We just don't know what you're going to get. Maybe the Broncos were just getting frustrated, but I felt like that shot on Jacoby, he was already on his way down. It was a cheap shot. Garoppolo getting tackled. He was already on his way down. Like the dude was on his knees, and then another Bronco or Justin Simmons, I think it was, just kind of dives in and you see need a helmet. Like just crap like that, dude. Can't happen. And first off, if you're a Raiders O lineman, you're a punk if you're not running in there and suplexing one of those assholes that did that. For real, that's your quarterback, man. That's your quarterback. Stick up for him. They can't do it themselves, not against a bunch of 280 plus pound men. If your quarterback gets dicked on like that after he made a play, got you a flag, you need to be fighting somebody. Straight up. And when you appeal that to the NFL and say, hey, man, I didn't want to do that. I just didn't like how they hurt my teammate. I think that they give you a much lesser sentence. If not, you don't get suspended, you just get fined. That would be worth the fine to me, unless you're, on a 1-year minimum deal. That would be worth a fine to me. I'd punch a dude in the face if they messed my quarterback up. That's just part of the attitude, man. You got to have his back. It's the hardest position in sports right now. So yeah, Raiders pulled it off, 17-16. Looking ahead to the Bills, man, it's a tough matchup. It really is. I don't like it. I hate it. I hate that we're I hate that we're playing the Bills. Especially after they just lost a nail biter, and Josh Allen looked like crap. Like 3 interceptions. He couldn't seem to get things going with Diggs, even though they had 10 receptions and a touchdown. Something seems off, and it almost makes you wonder if the media was onto something. Like maybe there was some crap going down in the offseason we just didn't know about, because it just didn't feel like Josh Allen was really clicking with his teammates. Gabriel Davis absolutely disappeared. I don't know what happened to that guy. He's a really good player, by the way, super speedy. The run game not as good as you want it to be. 12 carries, 46 yards last week. So there's a lot of good things. There's a lot of things I can tell you that the Raiders could possibly exploit, but I just think this is a bounce back week for the Bills. The Raiders are riding on a high. The Bills got to right the ship. And they really, theoretically, Aaron Rodgers played 4 plays. The Bills shouldn't have lost yesterday. It's just the Jets are that good on defense, man. That defensive coordinator's got to get a head coaching job next year, right? Like he's unreal. I don't know his name. I have to look into it. I'm a big fan of Robert Saleh. I know I'm talking Jets here, but I got to give props where props are due. I love the fact that a rookie on special teams, returns a punt for a touchdown to win the game. And the first person there to basically congratulate that player and damn near tackle him is Robert Saleh. Dude, I'd run through a brick wall for that guy. Straight up. He's a great coach. And it's great to listen to him talk football and be a mentor to people. I just really like it. I think he has a no BS mentality, but he truly loves his players. I really like what he's doing over there. I'm kind of envious. I don't quite know what's going on with Josh McDaniels and stuff like that. I definitely don't know what's going on with the Chandler Jones situation. It's been quite dramatic. It seems as though the Raiders are kind of leaning towards Chandler's just kind of off his rocker and he needs help. I think that's kind of messed up considering he's a veteran that kind of endured a bunch of crap for a bad team last year. I don't know, man. I just wish we kind of had that same kind of coach because I don't think we'll ever see Josh McDaniels running into the end zone to celebrate a player. That's just not him. Yes, he's allowed to be who he is, but maybe he's just a dickbag, and it's okay. Really happy with what I saw Sunday for the Raiders. I am. I really am. It was a close game, but I'm happy for what I saw. I just have a hard time believing they're going to beat the Bills this week. I think the spread is like 3.5 right now. I think the Bills beat the Raiders by 4 or more. It could be by a score. It's just going to be tough. And you're going to Buffalo, man. And the Raiders just always struggle when they travel to Buffalo. They always struggle when they travel to the East Coast in general. When you're going from Las Vegas to the East Coast, you're basically on 10 a.m. your time. Straight up. Sorry, you're basically on 9 a.m. your time because you're going to the East Coast. Vegas is 2 hours behind Nebraska. So I know that there's it's going to be a tough game. I see the Bills winning like 31-24, 31-28. And I think the Raiders will be lucky if they score that much. But again, we don't need heroism from Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that's one thing that, and again, this is me being objective. I like Derek Carr. I think he's got a ton of talent. I think he was just in a bad situation last year. But I believe sometimes he did too much, man. He really did. I think he did too much. Sometimes I think he just needed to be more Jimmy G. Sometimes I think he just needed to manage. If the Raiders get 300 yards and 2 touchdowns out of him, it's a W for the Raiders. They're going to win that game. Very likely going to win that game. Move the sticks. Jimmy G does that. That's all the Raiders need him to do. Get 200 to 250 yards per game through the air, 2 touchdowns, and convert, 60+% of your third downs, and you're going to see a winning team. It's that simple. You're going to see a winning team if you have that recipe, and I fully believe in that. But I do believe that that the Bills win this weekend, unfortunately, 31-28 or 31-24. And I don't know if it's going to be as close as we want it to be. That last score for the Raiders might come in garbage time. Bills are just a good team, and they're going to right the ship. Sean McDermott's a good coach. I totally believe the Raiders have the ability to upset the team. I just don't know if they have the same kind of firepower. I don't know if I know our defense is horrible. Like, the defense that Josh Allen is going to be thrown against on Sunday is nothing like what he just saw this last Monday, sorry. The Jets defense is just unreal. They're stacked. The Raiders defense, no. Like, Tyree Wilson can't even get off the ball in a timely manner right now. Your first round pick I'm not saying you wasted the first round pick. You should have drafted Jalen Carter. Hopefully Wilson improves over the season. But you don't have Chandler Jones, and Tyree Wilson is slow off the ball. Malcolm Kuntz looked good, though. Third-year player, Malcolm Kuntz, out of Buffalo. He looked good. Maybe Chandler Jones being gone just looks really good for Malcolm, gives him a chance. Because he had a great bull rush, and he got in. Him and Max Crosby got into Russ a few times. Maybe it allows other people to stand up. I just don't know. I don't know. It's a tough matchup. I'm taking the Bills because I'm a football guy and I believe that the Bills will win. I hope the Raiders win. I hope they upset them. I hope they play the same kind of ball they played last week. Smash mouth downhill football. If they do that, they have a chance. I just think the Bills are too much, and I think Josh Allen might chew up this defense because this secondary is not very good. This is the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You guys can get at us every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on Spreaker Radio. And you can catch up on any of our shows at Spreaker Radio Podcast, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Good Pods. As always, You folks can reach out to us on our Twitter forums at SinCity_IESR, at Kale_Henderson's my personal, where we talk all things Vegas sports or sports in general. Thank you for tuning in. Love, peace, and hair grease, folks.